Hey y'all, what's up? This is Rosie. I wrote another script because I didn't know just how passionate I was about this subject. So just bear with me on this. I didn't initially plan on making this a two-part series, but here we are. I just saw this video a couple days ago, and I'll link it in the description, where this beautiful young black woman described how she hates being black. She said she loves being a black woman, she loves herself and how she looks, but she hates all the intricacies and hardships that come with being black. She goes on to describe how she's treated in restaurants, how people glare at her and ostracize her in public, being an alternative black girl with tons of tattoos and piercings, and she's used to it. Who should get used to something like that? She's also had hateful Ray-to-the-Cism comments thrown at her, which are hurtful, and I will be camouflaging that word throughout this video. She said how she keeps her car a little dirty so she won't get pulled over by the police for having a nice car, and she doesn't have a fancy luxury car. She doesn't even want to ever have a luxury car for fear of getting pulled over for having it. And that's something that never really crossed my mind for some reason, even though I have heard of it happening to actors, musicians, and even successful people who are black. After watching that, I couldn't help but feel like I overlooked part of the spectrum of being a black woman struggling with self-hate. You start to mirror the hate that is thrown at you by anyone. Even if you don't realize it, you can start to see yourself how other people see you, and it's like, well, these people hate me for a reason, so maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe it's my fault and I did something wrong. But a lot of times, though, it can make you find strength you didn't know you possessed. You start to realize that maybe some of the shit that's going on in your head isn't all your fault. So, when I was 19 or 20, I was invited to a weenie roast by my former best friend, Justine. I didn't realize at the time her part in my internalized self-hatred, but back on her in a minute. So I went with her and her husband, who I'll call Grayson, it's not his real name, and we drove down to Shelby County, which is a county southeast of where I live. We went to his brother's house, and he and his son, Grayson's nephew Jimmy, not his real name, were setting up for the weenie roast. Excuse me. Next thing I know, Grayson's brother looked at me completely unprovoked. Then he looked at his son and he goes, "Let's grab a rope and string her up, Jimmy." I was shocked. I was dumbfounded. Jimmy looked mortified and kind of gave me an "I'm so sorry" glance. Grayson looked shocked and saw I was trying to take it in stride, and Justine stayed silent. Without missing a beat, I said, "Yeah, right, you'll have to catch me and find me first." He laughed and said something else, but I can't remember what. It was the first time anyone had ever said something so blatantly Ray-to-the-Cism to me. To even make a joke like that and feel so comfortable and justified in doing it, even now, all these years later, it's crazy that something like that happened to me. And sometimes when I think back on it, I still can't believe it happened. Sorry. When Grayson's brother got out of earshot, I lowered my head, took a few deep breaths, and I said in a low, calm voice, "I want to go home. Grayson, take me home now." Justine and I got up and made our way back to his car, and we drove slowly and carefully back to Jefferson County. Before taking me home, we stopped in the Walmart parking lot where I was silently crying in the back seat. I cried from Shelby County all the way back down to Birmingham, and that was about a 30 to 45 minute ride. Grayson said, "Rosie," it's not my real name, so he's never called me that. He said, "Rosie, I want to apologize to you for what my brother said to you. I didn't know he was like that because he never talked like that before. He never even remotely said anything to show that he was like that. I swear if I knew my brother was that way, I never would have brought you around him. I would never want you to think I would put you in harm's way or in a situation that would make you uncomfortable. I'm sorry." I told him what your brother did doesn't reflect on you. It's not your fault, so it's okay. I just got scared and uncomfortable. I never experienced anything like that. I've heard about it, but never thought I would be a target of it. I don't blame you though, so you're still cool with me. Justine, my supposed best friend, still said nothing. Not one word. In fact, she was mad at me that I didn't want to stay around a Ray-to-the-Cism and his family to roast weenies around a fucking bonfire at a house that was literally built in the woods and surrounded by woods, and no one could hear me scream if some shit went down. That was the first time I saw that I wasn't as important to my supposed best friend as a goddamn pack of roasted hot dogs on a stick. In hindsight, when I look back on that friendship, there were a few times I should have gone no contact and ended the friendship. Truth is, her family members were all very accepting of me, and I loved them dearly. Even her husband was better than she was. Justine, when she moved to Shelby County, she changed somehow, and she got very comfortable saying the N-word, hard R, even around me. It got to the point that every time I talked to her on the phone, she would find a reason to spew it, as if she was showing off or something. We could be talking about music, shopping, makeup, anything at all, and she would find some stupid ass reason to say the word, the N-word, hard R, but never toward me. At this time, I was starting to break out of my self-hatred and internalized Ray-to-the-Cism, so I started getting pissed and tired of it. At the time, I still thought of her as my best friend, so instead of confronting her about it, I would just make up excuses to get off the phone with her. One time I spent the night at her mom and grandmother's house with her. It was a fun night, everything was chill. And even though she didn't have her old room there anymore because her brother moved in there when she left home, it was just like old times. The next morning, she was getting dressed in front of the window in the living room. The living room had sheer curtains, and there was a black guy who lived in the house across the street. He was standing on his front porch and was getting an eyeful. I was looking too, but only because it didn't dawn on me, it didn't occur to me that she was shirtless and braless in front of me for the first time. And when I realized it, I turned around really quick and I said, "Oh my God, girl, what are you doing? And the window's open." She said, "I don't give a fuck. That fucking N-word across the street brings his black ass around here. I got something for his ass. I'll fucking shoot him in the fucking face. He don't want to fuck around with me." She didn't have a gun. Girl didn't have no gun. Never did have one. She was just talking shit because she could. I just stared at her, now dressed, in shock. The guy was just standing there minding his business, He hadn't even looked like he wanted to come across the street. As far as I could tell, he went back into his house even before she finished getting changed. I looked at her and I was thinking, what has Shelby County done to you? Before she moved down there, she would hear members of her own family saying that word and get pissed off and offended, and these were members of her family that I had never met. She would get pissed off and offended because of me, and she was that way on my behalf because I was her best friend. So when I was taken home later that day, maybe around noon or so, I got out of the car as quickly as I could and made excuses not to speak to her for a while. This was around 94 or 95, and she was married by then. I had graduated from high school. I stopped hanging out with her and started to hang with a friend of mine from work, and she secretly became my best friend. When I hung out with Justine, which was few and far between, it was very rare. It was very rare that I even spoke on the phone with her anymore. But when I hung out with Justine and her mother-in-law one Friday about a year later, the three of us were getting out of the car and somebody yelled out at me, "Go home." There was no racial slur, thankfully, but Justine and her mother-in-law didn't seem to hear it. I looked at them like, how the hell did y'all not hear that? Then I started to think, did I really hear that? Am I just tripping? But I know I heard it. It wasn't just a figment of my imagination. Somebody yelled at me to go home. Excuse me, sorry. One other time, Justine was on the phone with me. She gushed and giggled as she told me how cute it was when her mother-in-law asked her, "Are all black people fat?" And I said, "Oh, really?" And Justine goes, "Yeah, and it was so precious because she really didn't know." I was thinking, there's no way in holy hell she fucking doesn't know that all black people are not fat. Hell, I ain't fat. I'm just not tall and lanky like her. I was curvy. I was size 8. But anyway, in 1997, I met my now ex-husband, and we walked around everywhere hand in hand. He was, as I said in my last video, white. We were walking across the parking lot of the strip mall where I worked at the grocery store. Some white guys drove past and yelled out of the window, "You're a sick motherfucker," at him. And the guys he was in the car with giggled. So my ex yelled back at them, "And you can kiss my motherfucking ass." A lot of cussing in this, huh? Yeah. Cut to 2010, 3 years after our divorce, and my ex used to display a Confederate flag on his social media pages. I've heard that he stopped since then, but I don't know. He used to use me as his pass to do it without people raising a stink about it. He would comment with pride to one of his Facebook friends, "Well, I have a black ex-wife who will tell you she loves the Confederate flag and her name is Rosie." That wasn't the name I used back then. I just don't say it because it triggers me now. But so I commented after that, "No, I never liked that fucking flag. You'll say anything when you're the only black person in white spaces and want to keep yourself safe. I hate that damn flag. Also, I don't go by that name anymore. I've changed a lot since you and I broke up, so don't use me to excuse your bullshit." All he could say in return was, "Oh." So I can't pretend that I didn't suffer on another side of the spectrum of hatred. Ray-to-the-Cism caught me, and it hurt. When you're attacked with it, it stuns you, almost like a punch to the gut. Actually, the true first time I was attacked by a Ray-to-the-Cism was in the 5th grade, and it really was a punch to the gut. That motherfucker's name I do remember, but I don't want anybody trying to find the ugly asshole, so I'm not gonna say it. In 5th grade, he started an argument with me on the playground and punched me as hard as he could in the gut. He grinned at me as I struggled to breathe and started to cry. The asshole did get in trouble, but every time we passed each other in the hallway, I glared at him and I wanted to hex him with all of the horribleness offered in every circle of hell. It wasn't until years after meeting Justine and telling her about him that I found out he was from a Ray-to-the-Cism family. So it wasn't just some rumor going around school because everybody said that about him. It was really true. It was true. People don't realize what we're faced with on the daily as black people. It is exhausting being black and having to prove your worth. It's a struggle. And it really does make you hate who you are sometimes. Even if you don't hate how you look or the people you grew up with, it can make you hate the intricacies of what you have to deal with all the time. We didn't ask to be this way, but I promise you, if I could go back and ask God to do anything differently when He makes me, I would ask Him to give me the same skin tone, the same face, the same mother, the same children. I'd ask Him to give me a healthier body and a healthier way of life. Let us live easier without all the struggles with finances and debt. I would ask Him to let me have my mother for much longer than I did. And let us experience some of the things we've always wanted to do and travel to some of the places we've always wanted to go. I would not ask to be another race, though, because I love my rich black and indigenous ancestry, steeped in history, customs, and heritage I'm still yet to find. I just hate what society heaps upon us and makes us deal with just because of our skin tone. To be scared to walk out of your house, drive to the store, even have a nice car, that gets tiring. Some people say, the things you experience aren't universal. I'm black and I never experienced that. Well, poo-poo for you. You want a fucking cookie? Just because you didn't experience something and you never had something happen to you doesn't mean it's not happening to someone else. And guess what? You're still alive on planet Earth and you're still young. So there is ample time for you to get a dose of it. Just a dollop. And when you do, it will really knock the wind out of you. So don't waste your never have I ever speech on me, sis. Because I have, and it wasn't good. And with that, I'm gonna go. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen. As usual, there is a donations link in the description box. If you could hit that and help to support me and my channel, I thank you so much in advance. You'll be helping me out more than you could ever possibly realize. Also, give me a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and please look at some of my older videos. I have some really interesting stuff on here, so check that out. And share this and part 1 of this discussion around. It could help somebody out and show them that they are not alone. Maybe they'll find the strength that they don't think they have when they realize they aren't the only one who struggled with such thoughts and feelings. Lots of us have, and some, like me, still do. But again, I'm gonna go. I love you guys very, very much. Hope to see y'all on the next upload. Bye for now.